Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of Nightcap Candid Cafe Conversations. I am the returning host, Maria, also known as Happy Capster, and I have with me two incredible guests, wonderful people. We have a new season, which means we have new people here, and of course, I had to get to the most amazingest, most wonderful beings in the entire world. I have with me today the wonderful DNDJordanLea and the also absolutely wonderful Josh Simons. Hello, friends. Hi.
Hi. I
Hello.
actually appreciate that you stumbled over the and also wonderful because I feel like that is an appropriate amount of wonderful.
Listen. But I have had the pleasure of knowing these two individuals for the past year-ish and some change because time is weird and I don't remember. But we've been in the same circles for a decent amount of time. What circles, you may ask? I'm glad that you did ask that. The three of us are all streamers. We stream a variety of different things, different places, different times, etc., etc. But I think that's kind of the biggest thing that the three of us have in common, besides like Ttrpgs in general. I think that's how we kind of all connected. But I would love, for those who don't know the two of you and the wonderful things that you do and the things that you're involved in, I would love for you two to introduce yourselves to the wonderful world that we're talking to. So why don't we start with Jordan? Jordan, tell us who you are and kind of a general summary of sort of the things that you do on the internet spaces.
Sure. First off, again, Happy Cap, thanks for having me. I'm very excited. I am DNDJordanLea, or Jordan, as I'm also known on the internets. I am officially saying it here, Dead by Daylight streamer, because that's the main game on my channel. I'm also a Take This ambassador, and help out at D4. I do a lot of things with charity because I just think it's really important to do that kind of thing. I just joined the Underworld stream team as well. And later this month, if you're watching this, it's June still. I'll be launching a campaign on June 25th called Ampistrano. And we have a charity stream coming up in July. So that's me.
That's so exciting. And Josh, what sort of stuff do you get up to on the internet?
That's a great question. My name is Josh. I do a lot of things in the tabletop space and online. I am the community and content manager for Demiplane. It's a tabletop game company. And I am also fairly well known and associated for my former role with Jasper's Game Day as the head of the ambassador program before we shut the program down. But I do a lot of charity streaming on my own platform as well. Every couple of months, we do something fun over there. I am, like Jordan, a Take This ambassador. And if the date is August, I am currently on hiatus for my Wednesday show, which should be coming back soon. TM.
Follow Josh's socials to know when the show comes back.
Yes, you can find me on all social media platforms at Joshua M. Simons. It's my name. Hopefully that makes it easy to remember. I'll tell you where I'm going to be. A lot of places. In August, I'll be just back from San Diego Comic-Con and Gen Con. So
Yep, Gen Con as well.
Life is going to be hectic. I might be taking a nap. Who knows?
Okay, so
what's napping? Hang on.
What is time? What are naps? What is sleep?
The sweet release of pre-death.
Just getting right on that.
I joke.
So as you all can hear, we're all people who do a billion different things. The first thing I wanted to chat to y'all about, it's a little bit out of order than what we had talked about, but I do want to kind of talk about the charity stuff since you both have brought it up a handful of times. Charity is specifically streaming charity events. It's something that I wasn't really familiar with for a while until really in the last like 2 or 3 years or so. understanding that you could have these giant fundraising events, and it was through YouTube that I noticed it first with like big YouTubers that I saw, and then more so in the Twitch space. But I would love to hear from the two of you what led you to start really diving into making your spaces focused on charity drives, because I know, Jordan, you do like 2 or 3 events throughout the year that are huge, plus like little ones. And then Josh, I know that you said that you do also some events on your spaces as well. So what brought you to, in your own ways, to focusing on charity work?
For me, even before I started streaming on Twitch, charity was something that I cared a lot about. I have oftentimes, through many years, before I was even into tabletop games, done like in-person fundraisers, gotten involved with different organizations that were doing something that felt important to me. So once I started streaming, it seemed like kind of an obvious thing that I would just continue to do that on Twitch. And so like I started streaming, and then I was like, oh hey, I'm doing a big stream event next month. I was like pushing to get to affiliate so that I could like also have people subscribe to me. But I was like, we're gonna do this big event like at month 1 of Josh doing streaming. Let's turn it into a charity event. And like that is just how quickly it turned into a thing on my channel. And honestly, I'm grateful for it because I think it is sometimes important to decenter yourself in whatever it is you're doing, and realize that there are bigger things out there than just, hey, it's me.
Yeah, for sure. How long, and this is a question I'll also tack onto yours as well, Jordan. How long have you been streaming / doing the charity streams like in your spaces?
On my individual channel, it's been 2
Yeah.
years. I had done some community stuff prior to that.
Okay. Awesome.
Jordan.
Cool. So for me, actually, Happy Cap, it's how I met you too. You and I were part of a community that they did those kind of events. So I got involved and kind of worked my way up through there, and then was like, I want to start streaming on my own channel. So started that in December of 2019, and then the Panini hit. And my birthday is a February birthday, and I've always enjoyed whether it be back in high school or college, doing outreach and raising money for different causes. So I wanted to, in spite of the Panini, do a focus on trying to raise money for we've been focusing on Color of Change, because it's an important cause that I think everybody should be focusing on. And one thing that we've kind of made a point to do is to say that, hey, we should be focusing on these causes year round, not just during specific months where everybody's paying attention. So it kind of just started from there. And I was thinking of logistics of, okay, I have the energy to do this all year of really going for it, but to really do a big weekend, I want to do this 2 or 3 times a year. And giving that opportunity to do it to the community. So that's why we have, it's not just me running absolutely everything, because I believe, Happy Cap, you're actually one of the people that bullied me to not do everything.
Why would I ever do that, to bully someone to take care of themselves? That's not me.
But now we have some amazing mods that are well accustomed to everything. You've done the graphics each time, and they've been absolutely fantastic. But it just became a kind of a fun community celebration, as we're also signal boosting this cause, and bringing the group together, even though we're all split apart right now. So yeah, I've been doing it now on my own channel for about 1.5 years, but before that, probably about 2 or 3 years on other channels.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things with like charity events. Like there is definitely an aspect of like doing it solo that is very fun. It is also very draining because I've done a couple solo ones, and like small events or like month-long events, to continually be like, hey everyone, this is what we're doing and everything. It takes a lot of energy to continually push, and like that balance of how much am I pushing to push, and like how where's that balance of like how much do I ask people for money versus, you know, how much do you want them to just genuinely give, or things of that nature. What so I know that Jordan, you've worked with in tandem with a lot of people, and then Josh, you were talking about how at least in the past you've worked with different organizations, and you may have done so also in your streaming spaces. Organizing events and then also working with other people to make these charity events happen, even if it's just yourself or a couple of your friends or anything like that. What are some like best practices that you found either working individually for yourself doing charity drives or working with other people? Some best practices and maybe some things to potentially avoid for people who are looking to either do solo charity events or work with others for fundraising events or anything like that.
That is a great topic. And I think
Mhm.
there's like subtopics in there
Yeah.
too.
We
I know
can
the
start broad
checklist-
and we can start broad and we can narrow down. This is
The
our
checklist
time.
literally
Yeah.
popped up in my brain that I use every time I do one of these events, whether it be solo or with the group. So yes, Josh, you were completely correct on that.
I would like to propose that we break this topic down into 3 subtopics.
Yes.
Oh,
called
absolutely.
The why,
Yep.
the
Uh-huh.
how,
Uh-huh.
and the when.
I like this. Yes.
I love this. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So just because I've proposed the topics, I'll get
No.
started on the why.
Okay.
So I think it is important to ask yourself, as you're thinking about doing a charity event, 1, why is this important to me? Why this specific charity? And why am I hosting this event as opposed to someone somewhere else? And my subtopics are going to get a little bit hazy because there's a little bit of overlap.
Yeah.
Specifically when it comes to like the when and the where pieces of it. But I think it is important to think about, okay, what is the purpose here? Because like different charities have different purposes, right? So I used to work with Jasper's Game Day, as I've already mentioned, which is a fundraising organization. Like the kind of focus that Jasper's Game Day has is we're going to raise money in order to turn around and do good with that money. Whereas you take an organization like Take This, which also raises money, but there is a much stronger emphasis on providing resources and education and doing these like things at conventions where they've got panels talking about kind of mental health in streaming or ADHD and D or dealing with burnout. And they've got all these resources online for those topics as well. And of course, they do consulting with game companies. There's a lot of things that Take This does. So just between 2 organizations that have different focuses, I think that also changes some of the why for why you would work with that organization, right? So I would love to, I'm going to put you on the spot, Jordan. I am the worst. I apologize right now.
No, you're not.
Why
Sure.
is Color of Change an important organization for you to support?
Good question. And no, you're not evil. We play Dead by Daylight, so I'm used to shenanigans and I'm here for it. For me, Color of Change is one of many important organizations because they are actively working to give resources to people of color that have been dealing with injustice. As we are all aware, this is a problem that is still happening. And I actually got inspired after helping CB with his Kwanzaa charity streaming with Color Change, and that kind of pushed me to take the initiative to learn more about it. As a white person, I understand I have a little bit of privilege and I want to use that privilege to boost other things that are going on. But Color of Change specifically just spoke to me just because you see exactly where all your donations are going. They are completely crystal clear with the fact that, okay, with this amount donated, you're able to help somebody get a resource in terms of getting a lawyer for something, or therapy, or just helping out somebody. I really gravitate towards those organizations that you see where the money is going and you actually can then see the impact of that as well. So that's why I chose, Color of Change, but I think that's also why, to put you on the spot too, Josh, you and I both have worked with Take This and we really appreciate that as well.
Absolutely. I like that you talked about kind of getting inspired, seeing someone else raise money for this. And then you went and looked into it and did some research. And I think that's an important point as you're preparing for a charity event, is to take a moment and also ask why this organization, from the other side, like, why is this organization the one that should be handling this issue? Charity Navigator is a phenomenal site, phenomenal resource that goes through and will actually tell you, ranking with a number of stars, how much money that you donate goes towards the cause that you're donating for. It is remarkable that there are some charities out there that have done big events and are very prominent, and a lot of that money doesn't actually go towards the people that they say that it's going towards. So it's important to go and do your research on the organization as well. Getting kind of into some of the prep that you would do for an organization. Because I've certainly done charity things in the past and gone, oh, hey, in hindsight, I think there's a better organization that next time I want to partner with instead of this one, because I think this is more aligned with the why for me, because this organization is doing these things in a way that either more directly speaks to me or is closer associated with my goals in the charity stream. Let's talk about goals in a charity stream. Because oh
boy, hot topic, hot take.
I'm going to start with a hot take. I recall very early on in my time in the tabletop space, I became aware of a channel that was doing charity events that were very high profile. Had a lot of big names on the topic or on the stream, who they would do these charity events, raise a lot of money. Great, I love that. But this was effectively like a under the table networking. I'm trying to bring social status to myself by doing these big events and working with these big names. And like, sure, if you put on a successful event, I think it is only right that folks will discover your stream and love what you're doing, that you may make connections working with people, click with someone and be like, yeah, we should do some more stuff together. But coming back to the word why are you doing this charity event? And is your primary motivation that you want to do good and raise money? Or is it because you want people to come and say, oh, good job, Josh, you raised a lot of money for charity and you've got all these cool names that you're working with. You must be somebody important. Because that you can get away with that. You can absolutely get away with that. But eventually, I think folks are gonna smell a rat.
I agree with that, Josh. And I think too, kind of, this will go slightly into some of the other stuff in your subcategories. That's also going to play into how you prepare for these events.
Yeah.
Because like one thing that we do with my community is we're literally called the Haven Wolf Pack. We're a safe haven, but throughout the entire event, we are working to signal boost other creators in the community, especially marginalized individuals, and trying to show love and affection and, hey, go check out these amazing people. That also can come into, because I've worked with organizations before where they will especially with setting that goal of how much you're going to do. They do more giveaways, and the way that they do it sometimes reads as a little bit more desperate of trying to get more into that. And that is very readable of, okay, you're not doing this because you want to actually help. You want to hit a certain number, which sure, as a charity streamer, we all aim for, but that is not the end of the world if we don't hit it. It is not the end of the world. $1 raised is $1 more than what was there before, and you're getting the message out there. So that's why oftentimes with us, at least too, we sometimes do unlockable giveaways at certain amounts if things are being super absurd, but most of the time we just do it because we want to do it. So I think in the preparation of how you prepare also feeds into the why. And since charity streaming is so much more common now, I think a lot of folks are starting to pick up on those and see it as a possible sign to, hey, do I really want to be a part of this and have my name attached to it? Or is this something that maybe I should hold off on?
Right. Yeah, I think you make a great point there, because the ways in which you execute on something, you can still accomplish like achieving these goals and even getting some networking in and bringing in big names and bringing viewers to your channel in a way that doesn't read as being inauthentic. But the key there is, as you mentioned, the how. I obviously I've been involved in your charity events before. I know how they work. The intentional choice to, hey, like between games, let's like run ads for the creators who involved this week, because it's about kind of pointing a spotlight on everyone who's helping. I love that. And I also, another thing that I try to be intentional about doing is pointing that spotlight also on resources and education about the organization and the cause that the charity is working towards. That is, if I may take 2 seconds to talk about another charity, one of the things that I love most about working with Extra Life every year, because they say, hey, here is a folder with overlays. We've got a 30-second ad, a 60-second ad, a 90-second ad, a 5-minute, here's what we're doing, a 15-minute, here's what we're doing. Do you need things to run on breaks? We have so many breaks. Here's all these graphics. Here's 12 different promotional images that you can use. And it's like,
so
if everyone gave me that, if everyone gave me that, I wouldn't have to come up with content.
And that's something too, I'm glad you brought that up, Josh. That's something that I'm happy to see more in the content creator space starting to gravitate towards. But two, one thing, like I've reached out to a couple different organizations for that, because Extra Life is great. I agree with you in the fact that literally they have those resources. A lot of nonprofits and those organizations that you're raising money for now are starting to catch on to that. So if that's not readily available, you can always reach out to a representative and be like, hey, I'm running this thing. I would really love it. Do you have anything that I can specifically promote? Is there an event happening? Or is there another resource we can potentially reach out and do that? Do your research when you're doing this. Whether it be kind of a short thing or you're doing a long-term weekend like we usually do, that goes into the prep of how you're doing it. And if you have that step ahead of time, guarantee it's going to make your life a lot simpler while you're putting everything else together.
Absolutely. So note to charity organizations, put together a little promo packet that you can give folks who are going to do stuff with you. And a note to streamers who are looking for promo packets and can't find them, give at least a week lead time before the event to be like, hey, I'm doing this on X date in the future, far in the future. Do you have something that I could use for that? Or worst case scenario, could I get a 5-minute video of someone at the organization explaining, what these funds are going to be used for? Because we all have an iPhone, right? Or whatever kind of phone, or a webcam on our laptop that we use for work. In this day and age, like, everyone has a halfway decent camera and a halfway decent microphone somewhere on them at any given time. And so it's easy to like, hey, so we don't have something like that, but like, I can give you like a little 5-minute clip of me explaining what it is, and then throw the logo on there at the end, and boom, you've got a promotional asset.
Yep.
But having been on staff with the charity organization before, give us time to work on that, please.
Yes.
That kind of touches on something that is just kind of general life advice, but also in this context is also very, very important. Is if you are reaching out to organizations, if you are, specifically for like promo assets or something small like that, or if you just want more information, be kind and be patient. Because it's another human being that you're talking to. So, like Josh was saying, give them a lot of time. They're not miracle workers in like they can make things happen in an instant. They're not magicians in that way. So like they're just normal people like you and I. So like treat them with respect, give them time, give them exactly what you would like.
Well, it's also just a great way too, because I've had the opportunity earlier this year to work with an organization, and they were still relatively new to the streaming space, and they ended up reaching out, and I gave them feedback about, like, I call it a streamer kit. Josh, you put it to perfectly. It's this little streamer kit of assets that you can use. So I gave them feedback of like things to think of, like, hey, captioning. Trying to make it a little bit more open for everyone to use. But that can also help build upon for them future events and them building it into something bigger. You're actually helping out these organizations a lot more, which again feeds into the why. But I think it's important too to now start shifting into the how, because, and forgive me if I'm overstepping, Josh, but I think you will possibly agree that preparing for a video game stream for charity is very different from a Ttrpg stream, and whether that be short or longer, how you prep for that, very different.
I don't know what you're talking about. I just press go live and wing it. I don't know what you mean. No, yeah. You're absolutely right. What you're doing depends or changes the amount of prep work significantly. So I've seen streamers who put in hours and hours of prep for a single stream. Doing some like big organized event like a tabletop game is going to require that. If you're just hanging out, it's like, hey, let's go play some Call of Duty, right? Like, that's a little bit easier to do, right? If you're just gonna hop into Fortnite, like, you could probably like, okay, I just need 10 minutes to get all my ducks in a row, and then we're good to go. Yep. But at the same time, I'm going to encourage anybody to take a little more time than just 10 minutes, because it is important, I think, to think about incentives, think about fundraising goals. You don't have to do giveaways necessarily, right? Incentives can totally just be like, hey, at $100, I'll drink a shot of hot sauce. And like, if you want to do that, great. For me, that would have to be way more than $100 because my spice tolerance, like, that's like a $500 level, but like, it's all good. But so finding things that you can do to incentivize donations is key. And we can get more into this, right? I'm doing like very high level overview here. Marketing for your event, also huge. I don't think you should have any less than a week's lead time for any kind of big event. Especially if it's going to be more than just, hey, I'm doing my normal stream schedule, but it's a charity event. If it's like something special or dedicated, either on a special day or, head and shoulders above what you would normally do, like, I consider that a special event. You should put some additional legwork in, some additional prep, get those graphics out, talk to whomever, brands you might want to work with to provide giveaway items. A lot of brands super willing to do that, by the way. Yep. You just got to know who to get in touch with at the organization and be like, hey, dear social media manager at insert brand here, I'm doing a charity event on this day. Would you be willing to partner with me to give something away? And like a lot of the time they'll be like, oh yeah, sure. It takes a little bit of time to get back to you sometimes, right? It's not going to happen in a day. But like, it's free stuff that you can.
And the worst they say is no.
Yep. But that no is not a permanent no. They may say no now, but that does not mean that they will continue to say no for future events. It may just be because, again, realize that there is another person on the other side of this. With a lot of these companies, they have new projects or they're traveling to conventions. The timing is not right. Or if you are doing something that's a little bit more short notice, that's going to obviously create, timing and resource limitations when it comes to that. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind, especially regardless of if you've been doing this for a while or you're brand new, just keeping that in mind, because it is, of course, if you're an anxious being like I am, it's a little bit scary to sometimes ask those questions, but to keep that in mind of there really is no pressure. They say no for now. Okay. Doesn't mean that's going to be permanent.
Yeah. Could we actually, I like that you've just said, hey, if you're an anxious being like me, could we help the anxious folks in the world out there right now? And let's just write a script for how to ask a brand for giveaways right now. Goodness. So here's what let's do. I'll say the first sentence and then we'll go around and each add a sentence until we get to the end.
Not improv. You making me pull up my template that I use.
Oh my God.
So I would start with something like, dear, insert brand name here. Hi, my name is insert your name here. I am doing a charity stream on my channel. Provide a link.
And dates.
For X organization, right, on X date. Period. That's the end of the first sentence.
Period.
How dare. I feel like that kid in the classroom of, oh God. I would say something then that you really enjoy about the organization. Look at the organization's, like, what they stand for and see if perhaps there's an overlap of, hey, such and such organization. I see that you, and I see this throughout everything you do, stand for representation or whatever it may be. Fill in the blank there. Multiple choice. You got it. I think that if we were to team up in this, and possibly, whether that be some kind of affiliation or a sponsorship of some sort, to help raise awareness for this event, I'm panicking.
I've made the anxious one do improv.
I'm panicking. But something along those lines of basically connecting, right? That's what the goal of this next sentence is. Yeah. I'm just struggling with the wording because my brain's a little bit mushy today.
Yeah.
But that's what you essentially want to establish of, hey, there is a mutual benefit as well as benefiting this organization. That is what your interest is by contacting this organization. That is the why you are doing this. They want to know why. What could this lead to down the road? That kind of thing. That should be your next sentence, is building that kind of, hi, I think you're cool. I'm pretty cool. And we're doing this event. We should work together, and seeing where that leads.
Yeah. I would then recommend a follow-up of, here are the best ways to contact me. If you are a person who enjoys phone calls, I don't. But you can say something as general as, here are a few dates if you want to reach out to me and have a video conference, or, a good email if it's different from the one that you're reaching out to them for, or anything like that. Letting them know that, hey, here's some ways you can get in touch with me, some physical dates if you have them in mind of, these dates work for me. Let me know if those work for you. And thanking them for their time. Like, just let them know, hey, I'm just a person reaching out to you as a person.
Mhm.
Thank you for reading this message I've sent to you. And also, I personally like to add, when I'm reaching out to individuals that I haven't, I want to work with but haven't worked with. One piece of advice that I was always told when it comes to, in reference to like job application type things, but I think it works well here too, is kind of assume that they are going to reach out to you,
Mhm.
in your wording at least, and not in like a fantastical way of like, I always get what I
Sure.
want. But, in your verbiage, just say, I really look forward to talking with you. Things of that nature kind of help get in the mindset of like, you actually do want to talk to these people. You're not just, doing a mass like spray of, hey,
Mhm.
everyone who I could ever possibly talk to, here's all of the things, have a good day.
Sure.
Make it like a
Yeah.
tiny bit personal, and then sign it with like a good whatever you think.
I
It's a
think
good
Get your
tip.
info there.
I think I agree. I think too, if you have, I know a lot of us streamers do have, um, we call it like a pitch deck or something like that with prior organizations that we've worked with, or if you have a reel of, other things that you have done, whether it's on your own channel or, since again, charity streaming is so common, you've done and guested on another channel. That's something you can submit as well, to be like, hey, this is what we can do. This is what I'm thinking. Does this align? Does anything kind of work with what you might be looking for when it comes to this as well? I think that also helps, because then you become a face to them. You're not just another email asking for, hey, come support or give me free
Can we
stuff,
have free things?
yeah, like they're
Yeah.
putting a face and seeing that you're taking that extra effort by doing that.
Yeah.
If you don't have a pitch deck, you can always just make a resume of things that you've done, and what you are planning for when it comes to the event and how you're doing it.
There's a website out there that'll make a pitch deck for you for free in like 20 seconds, and then you
Yep.
just give them the link. It's super convenient.
Yep.
Super easy. I don't remember the link right now off the top of my head, but it's
I
fine.
believe it is. I know it. Wait, I just made it. It's just Media Kits.
Yeah,
Right?
it's Media
It's
Kits.
Media Kits. Perfect.
App.MediaKits.com. I'll put a link. It's really easy. It's so easy, y'all, to do specifically from that website. And there are ways like you can make a very customized one. What is that free online program that you use, Jordan, to make like Canva. It's you have to do a little bit more of your own kind of like inputting of stuff or anything like that, but you could use something like the Media Kit website to get the information if you wanted to make it more personal, more in line with like if you have a kind of brand or anything like that.
Yep.
And that's only if you want to go down that road. Like there are a lot of people that look at numbers, like big numbers. There's some people who just want to know what you've worked with. So again, it's into the researching of what organization you're reaching out to, what sort of brand or whomever you're reaching out to. And if you know people who have worked with that brand before, that's a good resource. Obviously be respectful. Do not hound at that other person or people. But if you are friends with them, if you are conversational with them, maybe ask them, hey, I've seen you've worked with this person. I want to reach out to them as well. What are some pieces of advice, things of that. What are they looking for? And that sort of thing can help you out a bit as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I definitely getting that stuff out too, again, as Josh has specified rather, ahead of time is always good too. Don't do it 2 days before your event. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
It's not a great look. And also you're going to be extremely stressed out then if you're anticipating stuff coming in, they're not getting back to you, that kind of thing. It's just going to add a lot of stress to what is supposed to be a pretty fun event.
Yep. I'm going back like 5 minutes now. My point in like, hey, let's do a template email sort of thing was that to show like it can be a 3-sentence email, right? Like it's, hey, here's my name, here's what I'm doing, when, where, here's who we're supporting. Talk about something you've done in the past, perhaps for the same organization, right? For instance, if you do it every year, right? Last year we raised X amount of money for them. This year my goal is this amount. talk about how you think their brand values or their brand aligns with the thing that you're doing. Maybe say, if like there's a specific item that you're interested in giving away, be like, hey, I would love if it would be possible to give away this thing from your store, but please let me know what works for you.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Mhm.
Yes.
If you've written more than 4 or 5 sentences, you've written too much.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, thank you, Josh, for kind of bringing it all together,
Condensing.
condensing it, because for me, I'm very much the type of person I have to write things down. That's why I have a template, so it doesn't. But sometimes too, these brands will want to have like a meeting or something like that. I will bring that template to the thing and then just go sentence by sentence of that. I'm a little not so great with the improv part of it.
You killed it. You killed it. You got to the why.
I got to the why. Yes, that's
behind the how.
Sure. But if you want to feel more confident and have that, that's my go-to. I literally had a meeting earlier today to discuss something for next month, and I had my template of checklists. Okay, I hit that beat, great. I hit that beat, great. Just to kind of help the conversation. And again, if you're an anxious being like I am, because sometimes asking for things, especially in this space, can sometimes be a little bit scary. But and again, it's no pressure. Like again, they say no now, could be a yes later. One thing too, going back to preparation and stuff, I agree with Josh. I've seen and I've done too those streams that, okay, we're just gonna play video games Dead by Daylight for an evening, and we'll raise as much money as we can and just have fun. I usually take like a week or two for that. For the bigger TTRPG / video game weekends that we do, which is typically about 3.5 days, that usually takes about 2 months of prep. Just because I'm getting everything lined up, checking with mods, checking to also check up on the organization, just because there's always news about organizations coming out, new details. Do I want to focus on a different organization that's still going to the same cause and what it's doing, or do I want to stay? Getting the signups out, getting that usually goes out a month before the event itself. Then we got to get the rooms organized on Discord, checking with everyone on games, sponsors, modding, producers. All of that takes a lot more effort. So in order to plan, an event like to that scale, it usually takes about 2 months of work to do.
Yeah, that's a great point. No event is going to come together overnight. I mean, it's possible, but the more time you give yourself, the more time you have to say, oh, we also need this, or, oh, we could also do this. You can make it bigger and better, obviously, within your means.
And as well as provide those resources, like with a lot of our stuff that we do for the TTRPG weekends, a lot of times we get newer DMs that haven't done a charity stream before, and they're unsure of what to offer in terms of incentives, or they're having a problem with pulling a outline of a story, because charity streaming a TTRPG one shot is very different than just doing a one shot. So they get very flustered or nervous. So we offer up rooms for the DMs. We also have a ton of PDF resources for GMs, for mods, for giveaway people, in terms of like items, as well as, players, what to kind of, how can you help out your DM? How can you help out in any way, shape, or form? Same goes with production. We offer up those resources as well as links to the organization, as well as, again, similar to Take This, resources for mental health too, because everybody's working extremely hard. The last thing we want to do is have anyone deal with burnout or exhaustion or any sort of thing like that. This is supposed to be a fun event. If we hit the goal, great. I'm not going to stress about it because we're going to have fun regardless.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think a key to that is like set reasonable goals, right? You might have like a grand total goal for here's what we would like to reach, but like also be reasonable about that, right?
Mhm.
Like if this is the first time you've ever done a charity event, don't be like, I'm gonna raise $10,000. Like start with like a goal of 500. And then
Yep.
when you hit 500, raise it to 1,000. When you raise it to 1,000, or when you hit 1,000, raise it to 2,000, right? Like go up in increments, and have some ideas prepared for what you could do if you hit that. And if you don't get to those incentives, those goals for, okay, at $10,000, right? It's going to be a hot tub stream. Okay, if you don't hit $10,000 now, save the hot tub stream idea. You can do it
Yes.
later. Prep done now that you don't get to is prep already done for next time.
Mhm.
That's also great, like TTRPG advice.
Yeah, I was
Don't throw
literally
away
gonna
your
say
notes,
it.
everyone.
Hang on to that.
Hang on to your
it.
notes. They're very, very good. That is a little bit of a segue, unless you all still had. I don't know where we were in your outline of the how, when, and whys, and I want to
I
make
think
sure that
We're
we
kind
don't
of all
miss
over the
anything.
place.
That's fine.
We're at how 0.7.
How
Yep.
points
Yep.
fantastic. And well, that kind of goes to show you that, like, for big organizations like this, the more that you think about it and do research and talk about it and plan for it, you do just, like, it starts to become a bit more than just, hey, I'm just going to sit here and, talk and people are going to give me money. There is an aspect of that to like drives and events like this, but there is more effort that does have to go behind it than just, I'm going to turn on my webcam and just start talking, and then the money is going to start flowing in.
Yep.
And I think that's just a good reality for people to know, and that's something that I had to, like, really turn a switch about in my head when it came to, like, viewing charities, is like, oh, there's actually a lot that goes on to make it look like you're just sitting there, but there's so much more going on that for any who are going to go into doing charity work, just keep that in mind. It's good work. It also is work.
Why are you fundraising when you're fundraising, right? Is there a special reason? Is it like an event? Is there a day? Like, it's Pride Month right now. We're recording this in June. But August is a different month with different things. If you were to do a charity stream in August, what are the big events that happen in August? Or like Jordan talked about doing something on her birthday. I do a charity thing on my birthday every year because it's a way that I can have a party that isn't focused on me because I'm uncomfortable with attention pointed at me. So figure out when you want to do it. Figure out where you want to do it. If you want to do it on your channel or do it on like another channel, right? Whether that's a community channel, right? You work with a brand, something like that. That's all I really had to say, is just think about, like,
yeah, because timing is, in a way, timing is everything, right? So, like, in the month of June, it is Pride Month. We know there is going to be a ton of charity drives specifically focused on the LGBTQ plus community in June. That is a guarantee, because specifically, like, big businesses, they want to look good, and so they're going to do a lot of charity drives for organizations and things of that nature. That doesn't mean you can't do a charity stream for a queer or LGBTQ plus community or organization later in the year, but also kind of like what you were talking about earlier, the why are you choosing to do this now? And it's like, you can do, there's an organization called Stack Up that works with military veterans, like active duty and veterans who are specifically focused on, like, mental health and resources and building communities so that these active duty and then veterans have a place to go after they come back. A lot of people focus, their charity drives around things like, Memorial Day, or, like, there's, if I were to work, do something with them, I might choose something like my uncle, who was part of the Vietnam War, passed away during the war. I might do it in memoriam to him or something like that. It doesn't have to be, a Pride themed charity event during the month of Pride. You can have, in this example, a Pride themed charity event in December if you really wanted to. Just
do it on your coming out anniversary.
Yeah.
Do it.
There you go.
Because it's important to you. I don't know.
Yeah, just exactly. Just have like you were saying earlier. It's an overlap of like, when you are doing it should mean something to you.
Yes.
Or be something that like, is visually obvious to people. Like whether you're just talking about it a lot or like you're raising money for Pride Month. That's not a bad thing. Like,
no.
But just be aware that a lot of people are doing a lot of charity, specifically like with Pride Month or like big events like that. So it might be a little bit, maybe not have as big of a goal, because a lot of people are going to be donating a lot of money. That's also something people don't tell you about a whole lot. When there's a lot of charities going around, there are a lot of people giving to a lot of charities. So like,
and that's one thing I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's actually kind of one thing that whether you are going into charity stream or you're an organization watching this, you don't want to drain a community. That is oftentimes what happens, especially with events that go longer. That's why my thing is 3.5 days and they are months apart. We got one in February because it's my birthday, because we have one in July because it's mid-year. And at that point, like, we're focusing on this all year round. We want to bring it up again. And everyone's had some time to recoup. And then we do it again in November. I'm already planning November. We already have a weekend. So you space it out if you're doing something like that. So that way too, you're kind of being aware of what else is going on. And also keeping in mind your own spell slots and spoons, because a lot of energy goes into this, whether you're aware of it or not. But also just keeping the community in mind when you are doing this, because the success of it all is going to be dependent upon also the community and how much they are enjoying it and feeling it when it comes to that, because otherwise it's going to drag and that will show, and you're going to feel that extra strain of, oh my gosh, did I not do enough? No, you did everything. It's just the community is also tired. One thing to keep in mind too is, we're still coming out and dealing with a panini. So, that is one thing to keep in mind when you're doing these events, because that is something that has significantly changed in the last couple of years, because times have been really tough too on top of it. But you don't want to strain your community. You don't want to put strain on yourself when you're doing these events either.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good point. I'd like to share a quick personal anecdote, and then we can move on from the topic and hop into tabletop gaming fully. I'll use this as a somewhat of a transition. Once upon a time, Josh was organizing a little charity stream with some friends. Several of my friends and I had gotten together. We were like, hey, we want to play a game of D&D together. We are going to raise it for this, like, nature conservation organization. It's just going to be all of us hanging out playing games. We picked a date that was like, 3 or 4 weeks out. Didn't look at a calendar. Later, we looked at the calendar. We went, oh shit, that's not a good day for this cause.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
And so we pivoted and we said, hey, let's adjust this. Let's change what we're doing. We wound up deciding to do 2 games instead of 1 game. We changed the organization that we were raising money for. And it went off so much better because we realized we should not raise money for a cause that is entirely unrelated to whatever the topic theme of the month is.
Sure.
And then not have anything at all related to the topic theme of the month.
I love you, Josh. Yes.
It is okay to make an honest mistake and not look at the calendar. But as soon as you look at the calendar and go, I misjudged this, you should do that. And if someone goes to you and is like, hey, why are you doing this on this day? That doesn't make sense. You should go, oh yeah, you're right. I missed that. I'm gonna postpone.
Now that you mention it.
Gonna postpone. So in that example, right, we were going to do a D&D charity event. It was focused towards, we were raising money for RAIN, it's a sexual assault survivor charity. Does a lot of good work with survivors of that sort of abuse. We were getting close to when that charity event was happening. And there was this resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement following a series of unjust deaths. And we said, it doesn't feel right to do this right now. And so we pushed it back and we changed what we were doing and we came back and we did it later. Yeah. It's okay to do that.
Yep. Yeah. And I think another thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, Josh, because mistakes will happen. No charity event is going to be perfect. Things will happen. Just use each event or each experience that you have as a learning experience to grow from. And that way you're aware of it and more prepared for it the next time around. But it happens. It's okay. It's okay. You're human. As much as we say we're not, because we don't sleep a lot, but you know what? It's okay.
Yep. It's absolutely true. Okay. I think we're ready to talk about tabletop games.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. The biggest thing I wanted to know from y'all, the first one, icebreaker TTRPG question.
Sure.
Favorite system at the moment? Favorite TTRPG system at the moment? Any system, which is, if y'all didn't know, there's a lot of them out there. There's so many.
Wait a minute. There's more than just one tabletop game?
There's more than
one?
I
don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, am I about to open a
Fake
new
news.
world for you?
Seems fake.
Fake news.
Despite this shirt, there's more than one.
Yes. I right now, I mean, of course.
Or if you have ties, like absolutely, you don't have to just pick one. One
D&D
that's on your mind
is of course one. But I'm actually gonna say it's a tie right now between Honey Heist and 10 Candles.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm gonna go with that.
Really good system.
Follow-up question though.
Sure.
Why are they some of your favorites at the moment?
So
doesn't have to be an in-depth research study, but like a couple of things that you really like about them that you think like people should know about them.
For me, it's something a little bit more simpler because I have now family members that are wanting to know about TTRPGs and getting more into it. And D&D, as well as some other games, can be a little bit daunting. So Honey Heist just uses a D6. Really simple. 10 Candles, pretty similar in that you know what you're getting into when you're signing up. You know you're doing a heist, or you know for 10 Candles you're going to die. Your character at least. So you know what you're kind of getting into, and it kind of leaves for, instead of having an ongoing campaign or one shot where you're concerned about hitting all the beats, you can kind of just have a very loose outline of how you're going to go through these stories, regardless of it's heist or 10 Candles, and working your way through that and still having that collaborative storytelling piece. At the same time, it's not overwhelming. Yep. You can make ridiculous things happen, and I love that. So yes, short answer.
Beautiful. Perfect.
That's good answers. Good answers. This is a tough question for me.
Yeah.
And it is because I am constantly thinking in several different game systems at once. So I'm going to give you 3 answers.
Fantastic.
Yay.
My favorite system that I have played in the last 6 months is the Adventure Game Engine, AGE. It's
Yep.
from Green Ronin Publishing. There's a whole bunch of games that run off of it, including the Expanse RPG that Maria and I played together recently. Go check out their show on Wednesdays. Anyways, that game runs really smooth. There's a lot of things in it that I don't understand very well because I have only dabbled in it and I have not read the rulebook thoroughly. But I like how streamlined it is for gameplay and how easy it is to understand. So I'm sure that if I sat down and actually read the full rulebook instead of just the sections I needed to play my guest character on their stream, I would know how the game works a little bit better. But I was very pleased with how easy it was to sit down and play that system with minimal like time spent learning rules. And it's a really effective system. I would say that my favorite system of all time is, at least as of this moment, Powered by the Apocalypse. And if I had to pick specifically, like Masks does a phenomenal job.
Ooh, yeah.
And the Avatar Legends game also, just like they're very narrative driven. You don't need to remember a lot of numbers. It's more about like concepts and like, okay, I have an ability that lets me use fire. How do I make it work? Go. Right? Like I can improvise something about fire because worst case scenario, I've got a lighter in my pocket and now I have fire. Right? Like you can do a lot of flavor things with it. It's very much, here's the heart of the idea that you can do. Have fun with it, which I like. But I will also just add, professionally, I have been immersed in Pathfinder 2nd edition recently. Opposite end of the spectrum. If you're looking for a system with numbers and crunch and modifiers, I have really enjoyed digging into Pathfinder 2e. And I think that the way that the system is written and balanced is artful. You need to read several books in order to know how it works. You need like a small library to have all the books on your shelf. But it is a masterpiece when you get into it and see how everything works together. I exaggerate a little bit. You're probably fine with the core rule book for Pathfinder 2nd edition. But then you don't get all the playable options and the adventures. There's some really cool adventures.
And the art is just really good. Like,
Just-
Wayne else is really good. Like,
They just released a book that's all about undead character options. It's the coolest thing in the world. And like they have this cool art motif where at the start of the book, like you can see that there's like dead flesh decorating bits. And then you watch as the flesh decays throughout the course of the book.
That's so good.
So good.
Anyways, so those are my 3 systems. I think I've given a little bit of why for each one as part of it. Age system is just so smooth to play. It's smooth like butter, right? You just stick a little butter on your pan and it just floats. Anything Powered by the Apocalypse, right, is very story driven, is very flexible. You can do whatever you want with it. Pathfinder, there is beauty in how everything works together, and that balance is like just
It's like a big old puzzle, but all the puzzles pieces work together. I echo. D&D is one that I was not first introduced to. I'll get to that. But it's one that I've grown very accustomed to as far as like running and being involved in. So it's very easy for me to fall into D&D, specifically 5th edition. However, I will also echo Pathfinder 2e if you are used to D&D 5, E is a bit of a trick to jump into because you have to really, there is for those of you who do not know, Pathfinder is a split off of D&D 3.5, unless I am mistaken.
Correct. First edition Pathfinder is basically 3.5 expanded.
Yeah. And then the second edition of Pathfinder came out and they did a whole bunch of revamps and all sorts of delicious things. There are similar verbiages used between D&D and Pathfinder, but there are also things that are so vastly, if y'all want to do magic in Pathfinder, it's not like D&D at all. So I'm in a bi-weekly game over on Waffled Maple Syrup where we play Pathfinder 2e, and it was very hard for me to get into because I am not a numbers first person, and that is a very number heavy game. But I 100% echo what you were saying, Josh, of there is this beautiful marriage of the mechanics influencing a lot of things that the mechanics are very beautiful. You just have to understand how they work. And it's taken me like 4 to 5 months to kind of figure out how my mechanics work. So if you are willing to put in the effort to figure it out, it is beautiful. I do agree with everything that you said about it. Also echoing PBTA, Powered by the Apocalypse, I specifically am drawn to Urban Shadows as my favorite. It's very much like centered around party conflict, but in like a tasty good way. There's webs that are woven, there's debts that are given and received and taken, and it is, if you enjoy that aspect of it, as opposed to something like Masks where you're working as like a cohesive-ish party that is like trying to do the same thing. If you want something a little less that, Urban Shadows, no, I love it. Urban Shadows 2 is coming out someday. It's coming out someday.
I'm sorry, Happy Cap, I didn't quite catch that. It's
huh?
What?
It's just so good. But a recent favorite of mine as of like a handful of months ago is Vampire the Masquerade.
Yes.
I'm specifically playing the 20th anniversary edition. But I've always wanted to be a vampire, but like a sexy one, and I am, and it's terrible, and it's so great, and I can absolutely see like how I play VTM with my group is very like gritty and sad and like not delightful at all, but like I can also see people playing it in not that way, and you can get very different stories. But the mechanics is, I just love rolling a ton of d10s because those don't get used very often, and it's a very fun terrible time.
Yeah. I need to stop you actually, because you just said, and I quote, "I want to play a vampire, a sexy one. I am." You are a vampire?
Yeah, you are.
A sexy vampire?
I cannot confirm nor deny that I am in real life a sexy vampire. I am sexy. A vampire?
I have questions.
Yeah, I have questions.
Well, that's for another show. I also know that Josh, you do are doing / have done some like freelance writing stuff.
I have, yeah.
Various TTRPGs or anything like that. Jordan, have you done anything like that as well, or is that something you're interested in? Or
getting into it actually. Right now, we have an upcoming campaign. And I've started the process of writing a campaign book because I like to do a lot of things all at once. I'm also working on getting some one-shots published for later this year. So I am delving into that space and learning a lot about it. But I would agree that what Josh has put out there is quite fun. Yes, I like the ooze ooze PDF
Ooze.
work that you've done, Josh.
That was a fun one.
Well, tell us more, Josh.
Sure. So I got my start doing some writing and game design stuff on the DMs Guild, writing for 5th edition, doing various supplements, whether that was, a new subclass or playable race or something. I did a adventure module with Mage Hand Press at the start of the pandemic. And then recently, last year, I published 2 titles to the DMs Guild. One was called The Gelatinous Guide to Ooze, which includes an oozling playable race and some new monster stat blocks that you can throw at your party if you want, like a non-Newtonian ooze.
Mm-hmm.
I've got one of those.
Oh my god.
Just for instance, as a hypothetical. So you're kind of just taking some weird ideas and things like that. And then I also published and to be clear, I co-published that with a good friend of mine, Chris Gideon. And then I also, the other title that I published this past year was co-published with Lucia Versprilli, aka Seer Sword. Who we did kind of a compendium of scary and or nightmarish monsters. Was called Solat's Digest of Dread.
Ooh.
We released that before Halloween.
Yes.
For all of your fun, scary Halloween games. So those are out there. I've got some other things in the works. I've got a couple of like one-page game systems on itch.io. And then I've actually got another one that's like close to being released about dinosaurs in space. I just have to actually sit down and do layout for it. I've got it's such a silly game.
We need more silly games.
I've got another I don't want to say one-page game, but another, call it micro RPG in the early stages of development. I can't tell you what it's about or how it's going to work yet because we're still figuring that out, but it's early in the process. And my primary writing project right now is I am writing for a as yet to be announced Kickstarter that will come out at some point in the future. And Kickstarter, I say it's going to be crowdfunded. I can't say for sure that it will be on Kickstarter, just that it will be crowdfunded at some point.
That's so exciting. Oh, that's so thrilling. Yeah, I'm so excited. And I'm excited to watch your show too. By the time this airs, your show will have been started and in progress. But I am excited to see the I because this is a homebrew setting that you're writing for. I am such a big sucker for homebrew worlds, homebrew systems, settings, anything like that. So I'm thrilled to kind of just see where Jordan's mind goes when it comes to creating your own thing. It's daunting.
It's very daunting. It's actually, this is my home campaign that we wrapped. But so they were kind of my beta testers in terms of it. But I took some things that I really wanted to explore more of in D&D. Like, why do we choose the subclass that we do? How did you get to that point? We also have a thing that'll be popping up, like a spirit mechanic, which is just your sense of self. It's not anything that's applied to like a religion check or like a history check in terms of that. So since I'm a big advocate for mental health, that's going to be something that's going to be popping up in the game of, oh, you have really high spirit today, or, oh, it's really low. And what are the ramifications for that if it goes super low or hits 0? So again, you'll have to stay tuned for the campaign, but we've been, it's been really cool to kind of develop a lot of this stuff with also my players. I was actually just discussing with one of them today because they are kind of, they want to do something different than thieves can't, because they have a sailor background. So during my lunch today, I literally started putting together some ideas for a nautical kind of speech that can kind of be relayed, whether that be through sailor knots and different seashells, and using that as a way to kind of convey messages and have that hidden in the port and stuff like that. So
That's really cool.
it's just been really fun to kind of expand on that and kind of continue to build this world with them. So I'm very excited. And with the campaign book that we're working on, I've got some amazing people I'm working with too. Lucia is doing some of the artwork and is working on that, on writing some pieces too. So it's just gonna be a fun time, and yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I love it. I love like exactly what you were talking about, like running games for folks and or being a player in games. And it can be D&D, it can also be any games. That moment when, as someone who runs a game, the player independently comes to you and is like, hey, I was thinking about this thing for my character, but it doesn't quite fit. How can we make it work? And then you get to make it work. You get to call the shots and be like, all right, here's some things. Like I have a home game that I run, and I had one of my players, he said, I want to be a Warforged, and I want to multi-class as a Clockwork Soul sorcerer and a Hexblade warlock. And the amount of time that we talked to each other about, like, how would that work? And coming up with like the general idea of like being kind of an automaton with like the Clockwork Soul as like your power source, and then also the person who made you into the Warforged is also technically your Hexblade patron. And then me being like, all right, that's what you know. And now here's like 17 sub layers of what you don't know about all of those things. And having like them learning and being like, hey, I have questions about this. And me being like, well, I have answers because we talked about this.
Yep.
Is so rewarding. Like I love going back and forth with players in any TTRPG. And being a player, having that freedom to be like, hey, I was thinking of doing this, is that okay? And having your DM be like, yeah, we'll figure it out. It's great. It's great.
I agree.
It's so creatively fulfilling and wonderful. Friends, thank you for joining me today. This was absolutely delightful. I'm so glad I got to pick your brains a little bit about things that you care about and things that we all collectively care about. Is there any sort of final wrap up thoughts about TTRPGs, charity, anything like that before we say adieu?
One thing, and I think this encompasses both TTRPGs but also charity streams. Don't compare yourself to other people. This space, when it comes to charity streams as well as TTRPGs, is not a competition. We are all creating and making amazing things. The same goes with our charity streams. What you're doing is valid, and just enjoy the ride and having fun with it, and the rest will follow. That's my last little piece for both.
That is a very good word, and admittedly much more serious than my final thought that I'm going to share.
Sorry.
So now I feel like I gotta come and ruin it.
We gotta have the dichotomy. Let's go.
You gotta be the lighthearted.
My final thought was just gonna be that Maria has nice hair, but
oh my gosh,
that's very true.
Oh,
that's very true.
Oh no, here in my own house. Gosh, thank you.
That's right.
Oh no.
Oh geez.
No, I've just been looking at the blue all day, and I've been like, it's a good touch.
Thank you. It's
especially with the lights, it complements it.
The lights are making it look a lot more blue than it is today.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
it's a little sad. I need some help. With that, everyone, thank you so much again for taking time out of your day. Please remind everyone where they can find you so that you can follow along with all of their wonderful projects and everything. Jordan, if you would like to let people know where the heck they can find you on the internet.
Sure. Again, everybody, I am DNDJordanLea on all social media, because branding's a thing. But you can also follow the new campaign at Ampistrano DND. I'm sure a wonderful little link will be popping up as I'm saying it as well. But yeah, and just thank you, Happy Cap and Josh, for this fantastic conversation.
Absolutely. And Josh, how about
Yeah.
you?
You can follow me personally everywhere at Joshua M. Simons on the internet. I've already talked. I do a bunch of things. Work at Demiplane. Come hang out at a convention or join our streams or whatever. If you wanna check out anything cool that I'm doing, just go to twitch.tv/happycapster and you'll see all the cool stuff there.
Oh my gosh. You two are lovely. Of course, everyone, you can follow me on everywhere at Happy Capster. This show is one of a handful that's going to be here this season, so make sure that you tune back in. Same time, same place. See who else I'm going to be chatting with. And until next time, everyone, may your cups be filled with something delicious. Have a great day. Goodbye.